Hey, what's up, Bunker BSers? Welcome back to the bunker. Tonight, we're going to talk about the security forces and AFPC promotion debacle. This is a place for real conversations about leadership, mentorship, and accountability, and the lessons that only experience can teach. So grab you a cup of coffee, grab you a bourbon, crack a beer, do whatever you got to do, and let's get after it. So, yeah, guys, I just wanted to bring us on here real quick to chat about your thoughts and opinions on not necessarily what's going on today, but what happened in the last couple of months with this promotion thing. So what do you guys think?
Well, let me hop in. So this tech sergeant promotion debacle, let me kind of set the stage here. So this we had 135 airmen when the tech sergeant results came out. 135 security forces airmen, tech sergeant results come out. They're notified that they made it, scoring error, and then all of a sudden, uh, surprise, just kidding, you didn't make it. 135 different people made it. So Uh, 2,000, I got my stats here 2,285 security forces staff sergeants eligible for promotion, competing for 586 tech sergeant slots. So, Air Force puts the results out 586 selectees. Then somebody at AFPC discovers that 27 of the questions on the SKT were incorrectly scored. Apparently, they used an old version or last year's version of the answer key. I don't know how that happens. We could probably get into that later. So the Air Force did really the only thing it could do. It rescored all 2,285 tests. And what you had was 400, if my public math is correct, 451 of the original 586, they still made it. And then you had 135 new people that made it, and then you had 135 folks who made it the last time were notified like, hey, sorry, there was a scoring error. So very high profile, unfortunate set of circumstances there. Um, bad day for those 135 folks, and I know we're going to get into what those conversations might have sounded like and how some of those folks might have reacted, but not a good day for the Air Force writ large.
Yeah, I think, I looked back 23 years of service that I was in active duty and then 5 retired, and I've never heard of that type of thing. So it kind of blows my mind. And then to top it all off, you say security forces. And I love being a defender, but it had to be our career field, Brady, that had that thing, that
Hey,
mess
what
up.
other career field would it be?
Hey. And so I feel sorry for the people that it affects negatively, for both sides. Because the people that didn't make it, but then ended up finding out that they did make it, they went through that pain of crap, I didn't make it, and the feelings of negativity that comes with that. And then for the ones that did make it, the thought of I made it, and now to be told, sorry, man, it's not your year. I mean, I do feel for him. At the end of the day, you gotta do the right thing. So I'm happy that the Air Force did it and corrected it, but you just expect better and you expect more from something so big.
Yeah, one of the most and and I don't know how it would have changed anything because it took a minute for him to figure it out, like Woody said, but correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but the results came out, who made it, who didn't made it. They did their base level promotion parties. They told their families, they told their friends, they posted on LinkedIn and Facebook and all these things. And then at some point, a couple weeks, maybe a month later, the Air Force figured it out. How, why, I don't know. And that what you said earlier, Woody, we can get into it later about how it happened. I, I don't know that we'll really be able to figure out how it happened unless the Air Force comes out and says, hey, Staff Sergeant, Tech Sergeant Schmo, used the wrong thing, which we all know is not going to happen. But my biggest thing, the hardest thing for me, if I was still in a unit, would be I've already shook dude or dudette's hand and said, hey, great job. You earned this. Couldn't be more proud of you, yada, yada, yada. And then, although it wouldn't be our responsibility, when we had to go back and say, sorry, dude, dudette, you actually didn't make it. You know, that's on big Air Force, and we will talk about that in a little bit. But I I don't know, man. It took a while for him to figure it out, and that's what sucks the most. Like there was enough time for it to sink in, like, and I made it sink in.
Yeah.
I think,
You know, it
Yeah.
wasn't like it happened today and then tomorrow there's, oh, we fucked up.
yeah.
It sunk in.
Well, I think it's interesting, Woody. You said it was 26 questions, right? Um, so initially, when I heard this, the misscoring of it, I thought, well, there had to be somebody who noticed. Like when you see your scores, if they were using last year's answer key, it had to be at drastic numbers, right? Where, like, let's say you put in 9 hard months of studying, and you didn't get a terrible score, and it comes back at you scored in the 50s, and you're just like, what the fuck? There's no way I scored in the 50s when, I walked out of there feeling confident that I got 70 of them right, you know?
Yeah.
Um, so I'm curious from the streets on how that was felt, or if there was anyone that really saw their scores like, wait, this isn't adding up. Or to the flip side, someone who knows they didn't study and got that rock star score of an 87 and they didn't put a day's worth of effort into it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I mean, we've all WAPS tested. A lot of folks watching this have WAPS tested before. From year to year, like you might not you can't walk out of the test center and say to yourself, yeah, I definitely made it. But you definitely walk out of there feeling like I feel like I did well on the test or I didn't do well on the test.
Yeah.
It's impossible to say. I'll use myself as an example. This is going to sound like I'm bragging. I'm really not because I didn't get promoted, but I scored a 91 on the WAPS test one year. And I knew I did well when I walked out of there. And I didn't get promoted that year. I didn't have the board. So but when you did well, you leave the test center knowing that you did well. And so yeah, so to get your test results back and be like, "Oh man, like
Yeah.
I only got a 52 or whatever." Or like, I mean, I don't think I blew it away, but I didn't think I did that bad. So there had to be a few red flags there early on amongst that, populace, the 135 on both sides of that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
you know that there was folks out there in the 135 that accidentally made it, that were like looking at their sheet and going,
yeah, they're waiting for the sirens. Yeah.
yeah, what happened? Did they hack a computer somewhere and just pick me or something? Who do I know it? You know that they were there, and they were like, man, this is wrong, but I ain't saying shit.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, and then
with it only being 26 questions, though, with it only being 26 misscored questions, was it as noticeable as we would assume being a whole test misscored? Is it a little bit closer to what it should have been? Or
well,
is that a way off
yeah.
number, like, regardless?
That's what I'm thinking because if they had 586 billets and 451 people legitimately got selected, so I don't know what the percentage is for 451 out of 586, but it had to be close. That's still a lot to get promoted for the incorrect answer key, but I don't know. I just keep going back to the absolute elation of making tech sergeant. Hard. They always say hardest stripe to make. Tech and senior. You always hear that. Two hardest stripes to make. And to finally, for a lot of folks, get over that tech sergeant hump, and then just to experience the relief, the joy, the elation, and then only to have the rug ripped out from underneath you. Because a lot of those folks, let's face it too, a lot of those folks of the 135 who are now not selected, a lot of those folks did put in a legitimate study effort. It just wasn't their year.
No.
So, but we gave them time to think to themselves like, oh, it paid off.
Yeah.
But it didn't.
Yeah. So, when we were thinking about this, I know we've all been thinking about it over the last couple of weeks since we saw it online. I think it was super important, and I don't know that the Air Force got it 100% right, but the Chief Master Sergeant in the Air Force, I think did what he could in owning it immediately, right? The things that I've read is, he got on the horn, or Air Force leadership got on the horn with, the leadership of the 135 individuals, and they talked about the situation and the things, and then that squadron, wherever they resided, those leadership personnel had to make contact with those people. I don't recall reading. I could be off a little bit. I don't know if Chief Wolf talked to each one of the 135 personally or not. Have you seen or heard anything about that?
I'm not sure if he talked to each of the 135, but I'm pretty sure I read somewhere he at least talked to each of the command teams.
Yeah, I think that's what I read, but I don't know, man. I know he's busy, but I think this would be one of those
Oof.
one-offs. If he didn't, and I'm not saying he didn't, there'd be one of those, you pick up the phone and you call that commander in chief and you're like, "Hey, is Brady McCoy in the office with you? Let's all talk about this together."
Yeah.
Yeah, and the fact that he just took ownership of it, and like didn't try to hide it or not cover it at all. Out of all the things he could
Yep.
talk about, the fact that he mentioned it, I think is a big deal and is a good thing to speak on because not all would.
And I think part of that ownership has to be at this point, I think if AFPC and the Air Force doesn't know how it happened, like specifically exactly how it happened, that's a different problem. But I think we should see something, we as a whole, because this didn't just impact 135 security forces airmen, staff sergeants. The potential impact, the impact is all career fields
Oh yeah. I mean,
ultimately.
it happened to be security forces. It
Absolutely.
could have been
You know,
any career field. And then if you look at the wider ripple effect, Brady, to your point, like everybody in the Air Force has an opinion on this.
absolutely.
Officer, enlisted, retired, active duty, guard, reserve, everybody has an opinion on this, and it ain't good.
Yeah. And I think, and this is just my opinion from my experience, like the sooner, I think the Air Force is being as transparent as they can right now, I think. Um, but the more transparent you can be, the more you figure out, as you figure it out, I think the better off the Air Force will be for it as a whole in specifically this situation. I haven't seen anything else come out that says, "Oh, this is what happened." I'm not saying you have to say Jason Hallman is responsible, or, Marcus Harrelson did this part. Just, hey, here's the scenario. Here's what happened. We've addressed it. We fixed it. Here's how we fix it. Here's the lessons learned. It, other than an insider, this should never happen again because we have fixed this thing, because this is the thing that went wrong.
Yeah.
I think
Well,
it'd be
and
nice to hear that. I'm sorry, Woody, but I think it
no,
would be
no, go
nice
ahead.
to hear that. But I don't know that we will see that part. I'm sure in
I think
like
we have to.
AFPC, they'll they'll have that conversation and they'll share that amongst those teams that do the scoring or certain type of actions that affect large numbers of people. But I don't know that they'll come out in 3 months from now and say, "Hey, during
Yeah.
military times, like here's what happened." I just don't see that.
Yeah. I actually, that's exactly where I was going to go, Jason. I don't know. I kind of see both sides of it. There's one side of me that thinks Big Blue owes everybody an answer on how this happened. Again, not necessarily the names. We're not looking to tar and feather anybody, but um, talk about what happened and what the fix is. But then the other side of me is thinking like, at the same time, like when we figure out what happened, 90 days or 6 months from now, and this is all just a bad memory, do we really want to bring that back up, or do we just want to kind of roll?
Yeah. eh, I have a different opinion than you guys do on I do think Chief Wolf owes the enlisted force the details. Not the who, but the what and the why and how they fixed it. Because if that if that never comes out in any type of way, then the fire just continues to smolder. on assumptions, on conspiracy theories,
Yeah.
on whatever. You know, in this high of a in this what's the word I'm looking for? This high visibility, this specific type of situation, as much visibility as it has to me, there has to be clear closure or it will never go away.
Yeah, and
I,
you're probably right, and especially in the age of social media, where there's already so much negativity and so many people already kind of walk the line on social media with Article 2 and Article 88, Article 134 type comments. I won't get into specifics or specific sites, but everybody knows what I'm talking about there. I mean, the cynicism is out there, and I think you're right. Maybe if if they don't take it a step further and put it out there, then, that probably fuels the cynicism in the long run.
I don't think that they owe us that explanation. I think that uh, knowing that they're taking care of business to figure out what those causes are and how to prevent them is enough. Because then you open up that can of, well, then they owe you an explanation on X and Y and Z. How many
No,
times
I
have
don't think
you?
so.
How many times have you dealt with scenarios there that affected people in your unit, and people wanted to know the specific outcomes, and it really wasn't their business. The fact that it was handled and taken care of is all that really mattered. But how you got there wasn't something you put out to the squadron. I just take that to this thing. It's just a much broader group of people.
Well,
I
actually just sitting here in the couple minutes and us talking through it, you know, I think my opinion's already changed. I think I'm with you, Brady. I think they almost have to put it out in order to reinstitute airman confidence in the system.
But I'm not saying to the masses, I'm saying to the people that do the thing, right? When I was a S5 superintendent and I had a complaint about pass and ID stuff, I addressed that complaint. And if it was something that affected the team that would affect the base, we didn't put out a base public announcement saying, hey, there was these complaints about this one process on fuel cards. Here's our fix to it. We assured our commander by explaining what our process was to that fix and how we were correcting whatever that error was and giving the leaders that information and moving forward with the base populace. It wasn't,
no, I
hey,
get it.
hey,
Yeah.
base X, we're doing, here's all the reasons how all this fuel got leaked or whatever the thing was.
Yeah. I mean, I see what you're saying. I'm not disagreeing with that level of a scenario, but that also wasn't on the social media pages circulating, creating conspiracy theories on, we should do away with WAPS testing. And then somebody,
Sure.
there's just so much out there on such a large scale because this has such high visibility that in my opinion, again, it needs to be clarified and cleared up or, yours, and I know your scenario was just just an example, but that goes away in no time. This is never going to go away if they don't clear it up, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I don't doubt that it's going to be talk of the town for a little while, but I promise, I'm confident that those same people talking on those sites that we know about that are creating drama over it, and conspiracy theories, once you give them the why and the how and what we're going to do, they're going to flip that to another thing, right? Or they're going to turn that into its own conspiracy theory. Um,
Yeah, I think. Sorry, Jason, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
No. I don't disagree that something needs to be said, but I don't know that I believe that you need to focus more attention on it than it already has because they have a lot
Yeah.
bigger, better things to focus on. And
No, absolutely. Yeah. No, I guess I was going to piggyback on your comment there. I do think though that with a lot of those sites, social media sites, there's regardless of what the findings are, and no matter how transparent the Air Force is, you're never going to please
Sure.
Those type of masses out there.
But let's
Um,
talk about it from a chief or a shirt seat. If you never get the here's what we did to fix it and here's what it was, and if I never got that as a chief in a unit, regardless if I had one of those 135 or not, even as the chief, I would be questioning the system at that point because nobody felt it important enough to let me know as a chief how they fixed that problem.
yes. Well, and I think we've as chiefs and shirts, I think we've probably been in those kind of conversations before where, hey, the wing command chief, gets all the chiefs and shirts together, whatever the forum is, and
Yep.
hey guys, with that thing that happened, whatever that thing was, here's what we found out. Either keep it close hold or go back and brief your folks in the proper unit forums. Um, but yeah, but something like this is it just kind of transcends and maybe deserves
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe it
Yeah,
deserves
maybe.
the proverbial megaphone treatment. I don't know.
I do have faith in that. The fact that the Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force is engaged, I have faith that people are going to take it a lot more serious at the execution level of that task, and they're going to correct the thing. Um, I do see value in having that conversation. I don't know that there needs to be a PA blast, that says, "Hey, this is what we did," or this is what we found. Uh, but I don't know.
And
Yeah.
hell, they may already know. I mean,
Yeah.
who
I would
knows?
think
But
at this point, I mean, just by saying that we know that they used the wrong score sheet, I mean,
they're probably
that's a
pretty
pretty
close to the.
basic, yeah, I mean, that's
Oh,
probably
they
pretty easy to
they know
figure out
who
for
did the
sure.
wrong score sheet.
Well, and to
Yeah,
to your point earlier, Brady, this is a lose-lose situation. Like nobody wins
sure.
here. Chief Wolf, I think, has done the best that he could. He hasn't, obviously there is someone to blame, but he hasn't come out and blamed anybody or blamed an invisible person or blamed the unit. He's
Yeah.
out in front as the Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force. Now, that being said, on the other side of that, I'm sure shit is rolling downhill on the other side, but
Oh,
but
yeah,
publicly, the chief is owning it, as he probably should, and good on
yeah.
him for that.
Yeah, so, we could probably debate that back and forth for another 20, 30 minutes or more, I guess, but, something else I was reading about, and, you can read it on the social media or you can read it in the articles that are out there. There's a lot of people that obviously feel bad for the 135 that got told they actually didn't make it, right? But what I found interesting as the more I read was I started thinking about, okay, if if I was still on active duty and I was sitting in a chief seat at the group, you know, how or what could I do to, I don't want to say help. That makes it sound weird, but what could I do to facilitate, help for lack of a better word, one of those 135 going through the next 12 months and help them be prepared to actually earn it next time. So things I thought about were like, all right, is it possible, that the Air Force comes down or the wing commander or somebody, I don't know, these I was just spitballing, like, hey, these 135 automatically get a must promote next year.
Mm.
You just
These
said that?
135, huh?
Brady McCoy just said that?
No, these are all hypothetical things
Uh,
that I was thinking about as I was like, how or what would somebody, if the Air Force didn't just say no, you're not, what would be the things that these 135 could get legally that would do the thing for them next year? Because there was talk in a lot of articles about, um, oh, what was the one I was reading today? It talked about extra mentorship, extra opportunities, extra this, push them for this, put them in this job, do this thing for them because of the negative thing that happened to them. So I was just thinking in my head, I'm like, all right, what kind of opportunities would these people get that somebody else wouldn't get because of this specific situation?
I'm gonna be an asshole. One opportunity, the PDG, get after it. The little brown book, the blue book, whatever they are now, just get after it. All the things that you should have been doing the years before, and if you were doing them, cool. Continue to do those things. But investing more in someone else because the Air Force did wrong, what message are you sending to the people that are coming behind them that are now eligible or didn't make it through the debacle? Are you showing extra favoritism to or extra love, care, and feeding to the ones who didn't make it because the Air Force fucked up? Or are you treating all those eligible the same and giving them all the same opportunities and putting the ball in their court to get after it and earn that stripe? Look, it sucks. I can't I can't say I could tell you what it feels like because I never had that happen. I can only imagine it fucking sucks. But that doesn't mean you do extra for those people and not give those behind them the same opportunities. I, sorry,
I'm so proud of
I'm
you.
I'm so fired up about this.
I'm so proud of you.
The
Well, so I agree with that. Slightly different take though. So I would say nobody gets an automatic anything. Nobody gets an
sure.
automatic must promote. Hey, we're not going to like wink, wink. This guy gets the award because he was one of the 135. None of that.
Do you think
But
it'll happen?
I'm sure
I'm
someone will.
sure it could
There's some
happen.
weak ass. There's some weak sauces out there, and there's some people that are going to be like,
Hey,
"Oh,
slow down,
we
GI
owe
Joe. Woody
you."
had a story.
Sorry, Woody. I'm sorry, man.
No, you're good, man.
I'm on one
Um,
now.
well, so I've had a chance to think about this for a couple days, and I think after you bring each one of these people in, and 135 airmen, so I don't know on average what there's probably 2 or 3 of these folks per security forces squadron ish.
I don't know,
But
man.
I think after you bring them in and break the bad news, you give them a couple days to digest, and then I think you bring them back in and you kind of lay it just like you would mentor anybody else who shows potential. If lay out extra like, hey, I want to get you back on the list next year. You know, here are some things we can do. Now, nothing's
Yeah.
automatic. I can give you a little bit of extra mentorship. I can give you a little bit extra advice. I can maybe offer you some opportunities, but it's up to you to do the work and take advantage of the opportunities. I'm not going to give you, I can't automatically give you an award. You got to earn the award. But if you want to get back on the list next year, I want to help you do that. And I think I see what you're saying, Jason. There's a fine line, but I think throughout our careers, I don't think that's too much different
Yeah.
than seeing an airman with a lot of potential that you take under your wing. And I think as long as uh, that that tech sergeant non-select, that one of the 135, I think as long as they are receptive to that and they want to put in the work, then I think leadership has to take them under their wing and give them the opportunity, allow them to do the work.
Let me ask you this though: every time, if you went through a period where you didn't make a stripe, did someone come to you and talk to you?
Mm. Yeah, almost. I won't say every time, but there was a couple times. I never really kicked rocks. I mean, sure was I disappointed I didn't make it, but I was never. I guess I was never really one that needed a pep talk. Although I did get a few
I'm
pep
not
talks.
saying a pep talk. I'm just saying, like, did you have maybe someone higher ranking, whether it was another tech sergeant, like say you were going for tech or another tech sergeant who maybe expected your name to be on the list, and they come to you and just be like, "Hey, man, I expected you to be on there, and you're not. What are you doing? Are you doing anything? Are you studying?
Oh,
How are you doing it? Or any kind of like feedback that
yeah. I can think of 2 occasions where I was a non-select that I had a mentor approach me with those kind of things.
yeah, pray you never had that ready.
No,
No,
I never really got. I don't know, man. There wasn't. This is going to sound crazy, but there wasn't a whole lot of people chasing Brady trying to give him feedback. Period. Whether it was from not making rank or making rank, or it just wasn't happening. I mean, there was a couple people in my career over almost 30 years, but not a bunch.
mm.
So, long story short, no, not really. I mean, it was more me beating myself up than anything. But
Yeah.
I beat myself up every time, but there was always someone that came to me, and it took me a while to make tech. I was a staffosaurus, but every year there was somebody different that came to me like, "Hey, man, I was expecting you to be on there. You know, what are you doing?"
Yeah.
And some years I took that advice and ran with it. Some years I didn't, and I added a hump on the back of my staphosaurus tail. But
Yeah.
I don't know, and I I always had that thing, and I was hearing that from you. I realized that I was lucky that I had someone investing even the conversation in me. But I did have that thing, and I hope that that's something that's continuing on, and there are people that are gonna pull those people aside and have that conversation with them.
Yeah. So, that kind of circles all the way back to the beginning as we start to, potentially wind this down just a little bit. But, you know, those people that do those kinds of things are the ones that will help the Air Force get through this because, trust is the real casualty in this, right? It's the trust in the, I think one of you mentioned it earlier, is trust in the system. I think it was Jason. You know, I was always a truster of the system. It didn't always work out for me.
Right.
I've had my ups and downs. You both know that, and a lot of you listeners do too. But trust ultimately is the real casualty in this debacle. So those people that were or are doing the things that you were talking about, Jason, are the ones that ultimately will be the ones that carry the Air Force back to, where we should be, I guess.
Well, and I want to say one thing too. We're talking a lot about the 135 that didn't make it, talking about trust in the system.
Yeah,
If I'm one of the new 135 that did make it, I think I've got complete faith in the system now
sure.
because the Air Force and I was told that at a very young age, and I was told a story of someone who missed staff or tech by 3 points, and it's because their commendation medal got lost and whatever. It caught up to them, and the Air Force went back, fixed the mistake. The person got promoted. And I always remembered that story. Like, okay, just have faith in Big Blue and they will make it right. And for those 135, they did make it right.
Well, and there's a bunch more than the 135 that already trusted the system. And now that the Air Force is, in my opinion, doing what the Air Force is supposed to do, that are gaining even more confidence and faith and trust in the system, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny because I had a couple, not funny, but I have dealt with a few scenarios where the Air Force did make it right for people. Now, a couple of them, and one in particular was a dude who submitted a correction. Um, what is it? The Board of Military Records,
Yep.
and it was he made master, right, just off of testing, and then like 6 months later, the review comes back finally after something that he had submitted a year and a half prior. He thought it just was a done deal, tested again, made it. Then the board comes back and says, "Oh yeah, this was messed up. Now we're going to change your data rank," and they adjusted his data rank. Now
Wow. Okay.
he could have given up, and his data rank switched to a whole new year, and that played in his favor on a assignment that dropped to where he was able to deny the assignment, stay locally, and retire where he was, had his roots planted after a few
Yeah.
years. My point to that is he could have given up, right? When he knew he felt he was done dirty for whatever the reason was, and I can't recall the reason why. He put in the effort, didn't hear anything back. He put in the work to earn that stripe that next year, and then the system did what it was supposed to do and made it right.
Yeah. So I mean that's a perfect like round the horn type situation. Again, trust is the casualty, right? The promotion list, it can be corrected, right? But rebuilding that trust takes so much more effort, time, and people to bring that trust back to where it's supposed to be. And you all know, if I was a staff sergeant, y'all were staff sergeant, this happened, every staff sergeant in the Air Force is out there going, "Hey, if this can happen to security forces, ha ha ha, it can happen to us too." You know
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So you know, it's a terrible situation, was a terrible situation, still is, and will linger and probably for a couple more years. Every time WAPS testing happens, this is going to come up for the next few years, guaranteed, hands down, no questions asked. But as we wrap it up, trust is a big deal, and we'll go in for some final thoughts, final comments, and we'll start with Woody. If there was advice, if you were sitting in the chief seat right now in your unit and you were security forces, what would be the number one piece of advice you would give that staff sergeant and the family that's there with him
Oh
or
man,
her?
man, you threw the family in there.
Yep, you have to,
Yeah,
bro.
yeah. I think the advice I would give is just you got to keep it positive. You know, leadership is there to help you through this tough time. Leadership is there to maybe provide the opportunity to set you up for success, but you have to be receptive to that. You can't go around kicking dirt, slinging conspiracy theories in the smoke pit. You have to keep it positive. And, the bottom line is you got to go back to the grindstone. You have to open your brown book. You have to open your PDG. You have to open your SKT study materials and you have to get after it. And, I hope that they keep it positive but I also hope that all 135 of them come away with this with a chip on their shoulder with motivation to get promoted next year.
Yeah. I think that'd be some great words of wisdom. And just like any good triad, and for those of you out there, the triad's the commander, the chief, and the shirt, and Jason was one of those key members of that triad who probably did more work than anybody in a squadron. And when something like this goes down in the Air Force, is is has to be the linchpin to the success of the unit and one of the 135. So, as in my opinion, one of the most important pieces, if not the most important piece of the triad, Jason, from the shirt seat, what would you be saying to the trooper and the family if they were in your office with the chief and the commander?
So I think the first conversation I would have would be, don't let this define your career or your outlook on the Air Force. But if you are going to let that define one of those things, make the decision on what it is that you want to do. Do you want to ride with Big Blue and put in that work that Woody talked about and carry on? Or do you need to say, hey, this isn't for me and I need to move out? But being a cancer or spreading a spreader of negativity throughout the thing isn't going to help this situation or any other of the challenges that you face in your unit or your day-to-day job. I think I would hope that the way I operate, I would also have a conversation with that person directly. And I kind of thought about this after we talked the other day. Having a one-on-one with that person might be a good idea, and give them some direct feedback and be like, look, man, you may not want to hear what I'm going to say, but maybe that score and the effort you've put in isn't what it is to be at that level. Or maybe they need that extra motivation of, you have been putting in the work, and a one-on-one of, don't let this define you. You've been doing the right things. Keep getting after it. Keep doing the thing. Keep focusing, taking care of your troops, leading from the front, everything that it is that we expect out of those tech sergeants, and it will
Yep.
pay off in the future. But I do think it's a kind of a two-punch combo that I would imagine I would want to give to my people.
Yeah, man, that's some awesome shit. And the only thing that you guys, I mean, you guys hit it all, honestly. The only thing that I would add to that is maybe in the end, I would say something like, hey, young troop, just keep in mind, you're always on parade. That was something I learned or heard first time at the Air Force Academy. You're always on parade. And this situation, to your point, Jason, is it will define you. How you handle this and carry yourself is going to define you, not only to yourself and your family, but to me, the commander, the shirt, and the rest of the troops out there. The airmen are watching you, the tech sergeants that are watching you. This moment will define you. So just keep in mind that you're always on parade. So, hey, I thought this would be a great topic to do a quick 30, 45 minutes on. And sure as shit, man, I appreciate it. But just kind of switching topics here real quick. You know, I've got a buddy out there, Brad Rains, who's doing a lot of good work for us on Bunker BS and in the community down in Texas as well. He's trying to start up his own business called DobeDzigns, and he has done a few things for us here on Bunker BS. And his latest creation is this cork coaster. Right, that's the front. He's got a laser machine. I can't. I try to explain it, but I can't. So maybe someday we bring him on. But that's the front, and he did this one custom for me. So he can do just about anything on a coaster that anybody would want. And I'll show you one more. And this is the back of Woody's. Jason's already got his. I don't know if he's got it handy or not, but that's Woody's. And you can see, you know, the level of detail that's in that coaster is, to me, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, you
Love
can
it.
see the I don't know what it is, Woody, the cords attaching to the aircraft, the power unit or whatever it is,
Looks like
the
an
umbilical
HVAC
cord.
unit. Yeah. That's a
Yeah,
hose. That's a
okay.
hose duct.
There you go.
Yeah.
Mine is
And
awesome,
that,
and I appreciate it.
yeah, man. And that's his QR code for y'all out there that want to check out his shit. He just got his webpage up today. Matter of fact, I talked to him before we came on here, and he just presented one of his coasters to literally the most recent Medal of Honor recipient, who went down in a Chinook. I don't have the story, so I'm not going to butcher the story right now, but maybe we get him on here and let him tell that story for you. But Brad, keep up the good work, man. We appreciate you and everything that you're helping us do and promote the channel and the podcast. So for all of y'all out there, thanks for spending some time with us in the bunker. If you got something out there out of today's episode, give us a like, subscribe to the channel, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And remember, leadership isn't about titles. It's about what you do when nobody's watching. So until next time, do the work and lead better. Bunker Bullshit out.